Hello, it's your 3D CG guru. It's been a while, and honestly, I'm really busy these days. I keep thinking about my YouTube channel and wanting to get back to it because there's so many things I want to talk about with Cascader and all the excitement that I have about this application the more I use it. But I had to stop and record this video and post it on YouTube because I'm kind of blown away right now. If you guys have seen, or you probably have already seen, that the latest version of Cascader just came out, 2025.1. I downloaded it last night, and right before bed, I just started to play with their generative AI functionality, and it kind of blew me away. Now, um, if you haven't seen the video, definitely watch their release video that talks about all the new features. But before I get into just showing a quick demonstration of this, I want to talk about just the concept of generative AI, because obviously that's a hot topic these days. And this is just my take on it and my perspective. So obviously, that's just one random person. But for me, honestly, I'm quite excited about this. The original thing that got me really intrigued about Cascader when I first heard about it was the fact that they were coming at animation from a completely different vantage point from other 3D applications. And I really feel like over the 25 years I've been in the animation industry, I've always been disappointed there hasn't been more kind of revolutionary evolution, if you will, of the animation tools. If we look at something like modeling, when ZBrush came along, it really changed the way artists created and sculpted models. And same thing with Substance Painter. There was a version of something kind of like Painter back in the day in the 90s from Corel called Painter as well. But, we were always just texturing stuff inside of Photoshop. And then they said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And they kind of recreated or changed the pipeline in which artists texture today. And for me, Cascader really has come at animation in a completely different way. The way you deal with interpolations and keyframes, and their spherical interpolation system, and just all of the great things that they're doing. Just, I'm constantly impressed with the way this tool is evolving. And specifically, the reason I was really interested in this is the fact that when I started in the industry, I was doing keyframe animation for all of our characters in games. And then very quickly, that was replaced with motion capture. So the majority of my time was, just cleaning up motion capture, maybe assisting on the animation list and going out to some mocap place to capture this motion or whatever. So we really went from having this artistic and fun, enjoyable craft in a way, I don't want to say stolen from us, because when you're in a production environment, we're talking about efficiency and quality, and you just get really good quality motion out of motion capture. Go figure. But it did take away a lot of what the fun would be about animating. But just the time investment it would take to create thousands of animations versus mocapping thousands of animations is just not, you can't debate that improvement in terms of turnaround time. So when Cascader came on the scene, I thought, wow, this is really interesting. I kind of viewed it as a potential in between, no pun intended, between hand animating and then having to use motion capture. We have something here now that is using some physics to help assist us and get us more realistic looking motions faster if your game is relying on that kind of realistic look. And even though the application itself is really focused, it seems like their marketing is really focused on the physics, make animation easy for anyone. It can just be, I rarely turn on the physics other than when I just know I need to correct something's just off trajectory wise or something. But like, it is a powerful tool for just doing hand keyed animation. So for me, now that I've been animating it a while, when I go back to Maya for doing hand animations, which would be, most of the time like creatures or anything that's just not a human, it feels kind of clunky. Like, it just feels antiquated, the amount of layers and controls and things you have to touch and manipulate, and the function curves, when you just want to be in the viewport and just adjusting one object and for your limb versus like IK controls and FK controls and blending between them. And, you still have to make those choices inside of Cascader, but everything's streamlined in a way where the end result is just always smooth and you're not fighting the system. So to me, when I see the generative motions, I'm like, this is exciting because I can just focus on poses, I can focus on timing, and then some of these things like, if you're doing a run cycle and you're trying to do a complex sequence, even with motion capture, sometimes you're Frankensteining animations together, and then you're dealing with the kind of pain of the blends and all types of kind of logistical issues. And this is kind of what I was hoping Cascader would do in the sense that it's providing an alternative to motion capture that lets you iterate quickly and get you something that is a faster turnaround time than hand keying all that stuff. So getting back to the point. So I went to bed last night after I just installed the app and I just set a couple keyframes and I kind of couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought I just have to record a quick video, talk about some of the things you'll want to know when you get started. I haven't really used this much myself, so I don't have a whole lot to say on it, but there are a few things that I just want to kind of mention to people. So let's just dive right in. Let's start by just taking a look at the poses that I have. So essentially what I wanted to do is I really wanted to see how is Cascader going to handle this character turning around a full 180 degrees in a relatively short period of time. So we have the character kind of crouched over, prepared to do something, I guess. And then we turn around, we kind of do the beginning of a run, or there's like some kind of run type pose, and then starting to stop and then stopping here. And then I added an additional key at the end just to kind of give myself kind of a moving hold. All we need to do the in-betweening is just select this time range and hit the in-between button. The generative motion is created really fast, all things considered. There's a few things you should know. The documentation mentions that you can kind of generate this for as large of an interval as you need, meaning, in this case, I'm going from 0 to 160. But for the sub intervals, essentially those ranges between keyframes within that selection, those need to be no greater than 88 frames apart. So if I didn't have these two poses right here, for example, and I just took these out, and then I moved this, let's just out here. Let's just take it a little further. And I tried to run this, you will get an error specifying that there's just not enough information for that period of time. So let me just go ahead and undo that. All right. And we'll get back to what we kind of had. All right. So this is the motion. Now, one thing you will notice is that when the character's turning around, the foot does clip right here. That's nothing I'm really concerned about. That should be easy enough to fix inside a Cascader after the fact. Okay, so what is the next step? Well, we could go in here and we could turn on the physics, but you're going to notice that the physics here is not really seeing all of the baked key data. If we go in here, you will notice that, essentially we're dealing with fixed keys, which again is just what I view as baked keys. And it's just the physics system is looking at the actual real keys that we have. And so it thinks that we're flying through space at this point. So what we want to do is we want to unbake this animation so we can further edit it. Now, the important part of this when we do the unbake is going to make sure that our fulcrum points for our feet are actually on at the right times. Previously, in the other versions of Cascader, rather than just hitting the unbake button, we would do this initial prepare the keys by fulcrums step, and then we'd do this next step. They actually have this option here, show fulcrum points. And if I turn that on, you'll see that we do have fulcrum points visible on the timeline. And now initially I don't have any keys here, fulcrum points, because I don't have a hold. So Cascader doesn't know that my character is standing still. And then we finally get some fulcrum points showing up in this point. The other thing you'll notice is we're not also seeing any fulcrum points during any of the baked key data. So for this to work, what we need to do is we need to enable this little key button. So if we click on this, or I should say disable it, now it'll actually show us the fulcrum points for the fixed keys as well. So that's a nice little improvement here in Cascader 2025. So now I can go in here and I can kind of preview these fulcrum points and make sure everything looks correct. We're just looking for points where maybe Cascader thinks the foot is planted when it isn't. So for example, here, this foot is still kind of in the air. One hotkey I've discovered after doing my videos last year, if you want to go to a non-perspective or you want to go to orthographic view, Control Spacebar is a great way to do that. And then if you want to get that camera straight to the side, just Control Alt. And so I have really gotten the habit of just jumping in and out of perspective mode to kind of verify the poses of my characters. And this is just another example of like how fast and convenient some of these features are inside of Cascader. If you want to rotate or pan the camera when you're in orthographic to different sides, you just, while you're holding Control and Alt, you just swipe your mouse, so just left click and drag in the direction you want the camera to rotate towards. Okay, so from the non-perspective view, we can see, yeah, the foot's still really high in the air here, and that's not correct. And then let's see what happens here. So now it's detecting that the foot is kind of hitting in this area. So this is a situation where we probably would want to edit this data. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to double click on the foot here to select all these points. And then I'm going to go into the fulcrum point behavior. I'm going to select this kind of interval here that is being problematic. And then I can turn on the apply on the selected interval option. So that means if I go in here and I start adjusting any of these values, that value will be added to all of the fixed keys and not just the current key. So here in this case, the max speed is too high. The max speed says like, how much is this fulcrum point allowed to kind of slide through space and still be considered active. And when a fulcrum point is active, it really suggests that there's no motion. So we could dial this down and see if we can get to a point where these points turn off. So now we've turned these off like so. And now we get a better foot plant. An alternative to this, and this is actually kind of the way I do it more times than not. I mean, this overall speed is probably good. Really, maybe something you want to apply to the entire interval. You're trying to find like a good value for your character. So maybe we really want to try to set this to 6 something for the entire interval. If I'm just dealing with a single area though, like I know I want to bake this down. I don't want to rebuild my keyframe data and I just want to fix a spot. Rather than trying to find a good value for it, I would just probably go in here and just grab these keys and just say no fulcrum. And so now it'll be off for those keys. Just to reiterate, if you think you're going to be regenerating the data a lot, you will probably want to apply and play with these max speed values for the whole interval. But if you're just trying to fix one little spot before you go into unbaking, sometimes it's just a little faster to set the enforce or no fulcrum option as an alternative. So we have this. I'm going to intentionally leave a mistake in here to talk about that after the fact. At this point, now that we've done a pass at our fulcrum points, we can simply just select the interval range for what we want to unbake and hit the unbake button. So this is now our motion, and we're getting close to being able to use the physics. Now, one thing we probably also want to do at this point is we want to tell Cascader to kind of lock these feet down as best it can so that there's not this sliding of the feet in some of these planted points here. So I'm going to select my interval range like so, and then I'm just going to hit this fulcrum motion cleaning button at the top. And now we get this. And this is the mistake that you'll see coming up here. Actually, in this case, it's not as bad as it could have been before. Let's just go back here. I'm going to try to force this to really mess up just to kind of explain one thing you may see here. I'm going to take this key and I am going to clear it out. So rather than getting that entire large step broken into 2 little steps, it's going to view this as one long step when I do the motion cleaning. So if I do this now, you're going to see that the foot stretches way out because what's happening in this particular case is it saw a range of a planted foot from here to here, and it uses the end of the foot position as that target, it looks like. So if you are ever in a position where you are trying to fix an issue like this, you may be inclined to try to fix any of the fulcrum points here. So for example, maybe this heel is in the air and you're thinking that's causing this to plant too early. But just be aware in this case, you really actually had to look at the entire range. And the big problem here is that when I did that fulcrum cleaning and it wasn't correct, it hyperextended the body to try to reach and it kind of broke everything. So what we want to do, and in this case, it's not too bad, is we want to, before we do that motion cleaning, I do want to edit a little bit of when the foot actually is considered planted and not planted. Now, in this particular case, for this right foot, what's happening is it's planted here, and then we could say that maybe right here is where the foot actually finishes rolling off the front of the foot and is supposed to move. Well, I don't have a keyframe here to switch from on to off. So if I try to select this interval range, if I try to grab this key, for example, and I say don't enforce, nothing happens because I don't have a key to store that on. So you're gonna have to go in there if you ever see this case, like I have here, and just set a key. In this case, it's only the right leg, so I think I'll just set the key just on the right leg. And then I'm gonna say don't, no enforcement there. So now we get this off like so. And then the plant, let's just see. Yeah. Even in here, I might actually want the plant. Well, so this is a drift. I think that's gonna be fine. Let's see what we get here. I just want to look at this range. Yeah, I think I might actually set another key right here and set these as this will essentially be the interval range where the foot is moving. Even though it's a little bit of a drift, I think I want them coming down to that spot. So maybe I'll actually do it here. So I'll grab these and then I'll just say no fulcrum point. There we go. So there is still a little bit of a shift. I don't know. We could play with this. I'm getting a little distracted. Let's turn it off completely and set it here instead. And we'll just see what happens. If we don't like the results, it's easy enough to hit undo and try it again at a different timing. And the funny thing with all of this is right now, me whittling away at this minute detail is actually taking more time than generating all this animation data. Okay, so let's try this again. Fulcrum motion cleaning, and let's just see what we get. Okay, so yeah, it is a little slidey there. Maybe I should have picked that earlier frame, but yeah, we get the point. So there we are. Okay, so at this point we have some generated motions, and let's go all the way back. We could start using the physics system now if you want to add extra secondary motions or movements. Oh, I actually almost forgot. We do have that clipping issue here as the turn is coming around, so let's just fix that real quick. I'll take my point. I already have trajectories on. We now have the context menu inside of Cascader 2025. So right click used to be select your pivot point. Now, if you want to do that with the right click, you hold down Alt and then right click. So I'm going to choose to go ahead and get used to that change in the workflow. They do have options to revert your settings back to the old way. But for me, I'm like, it's a minor adjustment. And I think in the long run, they're going to be adding more and more features into the context menu. So I'm just going to get used to this change myself. Okay, so we're going to go in here, and here we actually have the area where the foot is clipping. So let's just fix that real quick. I could either choose to go to this previous frame and maybe just pull that out a little bit, and I'll grab the entire foot when I do this. So that might do it, or I might just go in here and have to just add an additional key. And in this case, I'm only dealing with an issue with the foot. So I think I'm inclined to add it just to the right foot track. So we go in here like this and add the key and just shift this over. And now we have that offset. And actually, I think I might go in and do it a frame earlier. So let's get rid of that. And let's see where we are here, here. Yeah, so I think I'll do this. Let's just see if I get rid of this key. There we go. All right, so now he's not clipping through the body there. And there's a few things I would want to tweak. I think here, that fulcrum adjustment, I actually went back and redid this, and I didn't do it that well. I missed a point there. So I'll just fix that real quick. I'll just go into Tween Machine and just dial that foot back a little bit more like this. Yeah, so reloading the file, I didn't fix that correctly. And then here also, I want to probably take this, and I'm just going to make that so it's not quite so hyperextended. There we go. All right, so that's as far as I wanted to take the video. I just wanted to show you guys the workflow and general workflow you would be using with this. and to kind of give my thoughts on the topic of generative AI. If you have anything you're really wanting to see, please leave a comment. I do have my own laundry list of things I've been wanting to talk about, and I hope to try to pick up or invest a little bit more time this spring and summer into getting videos out again for people. But I am curious to know what are the topics that people are most interested in hearing about at this point. So thanks for watching, and until next time, happy animating.